Welcome to our year-end conversations with local leaders. To start, we are going to be speaking with Mayor Simon Yu. Mayor Simon Yu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Adam, for giving us this opportunity.
I wanted to start off, Mayor Yu, talking a bit about the year in review. This is what this is all about. How would you describe 2024 for the city and in terms of your role?
Well, this is another year of learning. For me personally, this is my second year as a mayor of Prince George. We as a council, we starting to get to know each other's work style a little bit better and start getting a few things done. And some of the highlights, is we as a council, we have took the initiative to work with our local Clean Tenay leadership as well as the upper provincial federal level of government to sign the MOU and looking and various file the problem that facing our community right now. And so we have developed a cordial relationship with the premier, with the leader of opposition. So I believe this is a building year to understand the issue. We are right now having because through our efforts, the first year and last year, we have built quite a lot of supportive housing in town, 500 units. So we are in a good position now to ease the homeless file. But of course, we still very much need the treatment hospital here, as well as a mental addiction treatment facility to make sure the long term we find some long-term solutions. So these are some of the key work that we've done. On the economic front, we are facing some uncertainties as a city and the region. The forestry industry is it's down a bit. So we are actively working with our economic development department to attract more energy hydrogen projects to our city. So I would wish some of the big announcement turn into a investment decision this year. It did not happen. So, but we are hopeful in the coming years we will be as a city we will create more industrial opportunities for people to go to to have a good paying jobs. So mining sectors still look at Prince George as the supplies area. So with some of the big announcement happened down the around Prince George, so I'm hoping the mining pick up to prepare Prince George to the next year. So this is I will describe 2024 as a year of uncertainty and a year to call for actions and to build relationships to make sure the foundation to create a positive economy is there.
How important was that signing of the MOU with various other government organizations? Because the council has made it quite clear that it just can't be municipal government doing everything, bearing the brunt of all these issues that are happening within the city. It has to be a united effort, essentially. So how important was that signing that MOU, but also knowing that there are other partners now on board trying to help find a unified solution?
It's crucial. Let's say, for example, housing. Let's say healthcare. These are primarily provincial issues. We can't even get understanding the problem unless the federal and provincial partners and our First Nation partners at the table. So by signing the MOU, it is a pledge, because after the election, it really doesn't matter who got elected. We recognize the economic issue as well as a lot of other issues. We need to look at it as a nonpartisan way. So we can, this is basically the MOU create a safe space so that all the leadership can, get into this safe space and discuss solutions, options. For example, I sit on the Urban Mayor Caucus, so often we discuss the issue that facing all our communities. so we can advocate together more effectively to a solution that tailor-made for Prince George.
Right, Mayor Yu, thank you. Coming up next on our conversation with local leaders, we will have more with Mayor Yu. Welcome back to our conversation with local leaders, speaking with Mayor Simon Yu. Mayor Yu, we've been talking a lot about some of the issues that are plaguing Prince George. You're now halfway into your term. You have 2 more years of your term. What are you hoping to accomplish, I guess? We've talked about the issues, industry particularly. There's been some issues with industry. Where do you see the city going forward for industry?
We need to articulate a long-term vision of how Prince George as a city related to the region, related to the province, and related to Canada, related to North America, related to the Cascade region, and related to the world. What is our economic relationship with others? That we need to define ourselves. What industry? Lumber industry, forestry industry is still going to be with us, but in what form? How do we do selective logging? How do we create jobs that adds value to our forest products? How this downtown will develop into a place that tourism will flourish. People visit Prince George. We need to make a reason they need to stay here 1 or 2 nights. We have a lot of great tourism resources in and around the Prince George. How do we promote that? We need to find a way to better use our airport to link ourselves perhaps to the Arctic, to Greenland, to the towns that also needs development, but they will be looking Prince George as a tropical place because they're north. We need to rekindle the pioneer spirit of our forefathers, the can-do spirit. How do we start up a agriculture industry here, use the abundant energy that we have? So as the pipeline, going past our city left towards the west, south towards Vancouver, how do we utilize these projects to train our workforces through our universities, through CNCs, to increase our skill set? So the next few years, I think my primary job is to articulate a long-term vision. What we are as a city, what is the population should be? Should we be 200,000 people? Should we leave the way it is right now? Because some of the amenities we require a slightly larger demographic. And of course, we need to continue to forge a strong relationship with our First Nation partners around here to develop some of the natural resources that is climate friendly, and to meet, so we will become a modern city in terms of in a decades, if not centuries to come. But I think it is time that this conversation needs to take in place. I had a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, to various First Nation leaderships. I just want to continue this conversation next this second term, second half of our term, to make sure that become a reality. So some of the ideas turn into a real investment opportunities for our citizens.
Wait, let's go back to housing for a bit. Obviously, you mentioned more units of supportive housing coming online in Prince George. The past year, there's been some struggles with housing in Moccasin Flats and with homelessness. That's not a new issue for our city. But take us through, the relationship with the province this past year.
Yeah, the province passed Bill 44, which basically asked the municipality to increase the densification to provide more housing with the existing infrastructure. But we know that we need more infrastructure in order to also need to build in the right location. So I'm encouraged. The housing minister is also now is minister for municipal affairs. So we will have a much better conversation with the housing minister to address the housing piece. Me, along with the 4 other mayors, we started a task force to make sure we will promote modular prefab homes to speed up some of the construction process through standardization of some specific design that will encourage the rapid, creation of housing units with the infrastructure we have. So these are the things that I'm personally doing it, along with my council colleagues, to promote, Prince George through UBCM, through FCM. So there will be more housing funding directly come to Prince George, and together work with the indigenous housing group to create more house that community will be created, not just housing.
And that wraps up our conversation with Mayor Yu. Cheryl Jen will have her conversation with Chief Delene Logan up next.
Well, I'm here with Chief Delene Logan of the Coyote First Nation. Hadi.
Hadi.
Okay, 2024 is coming down. It's winding down. Highlight for you of this past year?
The highlight is actually finishing the daycare. That's one of the main ones. It's huge. It's beautiful. Can't wait till it's fully opened.
Paint me a picture of it. I mean, we're standing inside this daycare right now. How many kids? How did it come about? Why did it come about? What necessitated the creation of a new daycare?
We've always needed a daycare for our workers, for our members that are going to work, and funding came available. We applied and we got it, and then so we started it, and then COVID hit, and then we finally finished it, and we finally hired a general manager for it.
So one of the things about it is its location now, and it's kind of unique in that is it a 24-hour daycare? Is it one of those unique kind of daycares? Like what are we going to see in here when it opens?
We're working towards 24 hours. It'd be very unique. It'd be the first one in I think BC or even in Canada. I'm not sure, but it's for all the shift workers, like who for daycare for like ambulances, RCMP, fire, mill workers, anyone, night shift workers. And hopefully soon, but we'll work our way to 24 hours, and it'd be helpful for everyone.
So you're right adjacent to the exploration place where the David Douglas Botanical Garden used to be. Is this location chosen for a particular reason?
Our original village site is like this Delene Memorial Park, and this land came available. We got it from the city, so this is where we chose it, and it's named Daycare in the Park.
Is that what it's going to be called?
It's called Daycare in the Park. Yeah.
Well, that's pleasant. I happened to be on reserve not too long ago in the springtime when ground was being broken on a new wastewater treatment facility. It was a big celebration. It was a real achievement. Why was that so important to the folks on Landers Road?
Probably because we've been working on it since we got moved out there in 1914. But why it's really important is infrastructure. We can't build any more homes and stuff until we have the actual infrastructure, and we needed the wastewater plant, and we did dig a secondary shallow well for backup. So now we can move forward into building homes for our members.
I was going to say that was part of probably, I mean, you have the health center there as well. So that was part of maybe a driver why you wanted this wastewater treatment facility, but also housing, because you are maxed.
We're maxed. We can't build anymore until we get the infrastructure. And this is where we need a bridge. We desperately need a bridge just for the infrastructure, because this is all INAC or ISC funding, and they will only fund one. They will not fund two for one First Nation. So if we can get a bridge, we connect both the north side and the south side with our infrastructure, so we can expand and grow, and more homes, bring more members home.
I was going to say that's a big part of it, drawing people back to Plately, right?
Oh, that is. It's a huge draw. Everyone wants to come home. We're working on an elders facility because of talking to many elders. It's like they want to come home for the last few years. They've A lot of them were born on reserve and moved away, but they wanted to come back.
I know that Claytley has built a lot of tiny homes, they're called, both on north and south side. But that is about as much as you can do. And so what are you hearing from elders? What are you hearing from those off reserve who say, I want to live on Claytley, but just can't?
Yes.
Frustrating?
Very frustrating, because we have a housing list that keeps growing every year and more and more. And so we are working on an elders facility, and we're working on duplexes to come into the community and apartments where it's affordable housing too out there. It's like true affordable housing. Like somebody working minimum wage isn't going to be spending a check and a half on rent, right? So we're trying to get people home, but not to break them.
Exactly. All right, you signed a forestry deal with the CIMP earlier this year. Tell me about that.
Well, we have shared territory, and we both have strong beliefs in our forestry, how it should be run and how it should be not clear cut and some areas saved. Like we're in agreement, some of them that should have to be saved for cultural reasons. I think it's good. Like we had a meeting this year with CIMP and BC government saying like, give us control over our territory, give us control over permitting, give us control over spraying, give us control over everything. Like I told them, we've been doing it for 9,000 years, and with all the help we could get, we should be able to do it.
You had some choice words, I think, the last Council of Forest Industries convention that was up here, and you talked about with this partnership that you have, give you control over permitting, give you control, and that was a big bone of contention when you recently, not this year, but the year before, I believe, signed a forest license, and that was the big message, was just step back and let us do our thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Like we can do it. We know what we're doing. LTN contracting has been hitting it out of the park. Before they used to run over trees this big because they weren't useful. Now they're going around it, and they learned how to forest without stripping everything. And anything that used to be burnt in piles, like slash piles, we have slash to sash. So now it's all getting trucked into Arbius, where it's going to be turned into biofuel.
And so what would make it easier for the Claytley to do business like that? Like to do this, create these kinds of partnerships? What would make it easier?
If the government stepped out of it and let us do it.
Speaking of government, let's talk about a new government just formed this fall with a new election, and you have a new Minister of Forests was up here. And so are you going to be knocking on the door in Victoria in very short order with that demand?
Absolutely. We already, I think it's the day after elections or 2 days after elections, we put in call out saying we want to meet. And
his message, what did he say?
He hasn't got back yet, so we'll be pounding the door harder and saying we want to meet and we want to, their new government, so we'll have to train them, I guess.
Yeah, this is a new forest minister too, so maybe you'll have
new forest minister, so it'll be like a truth reconciliation. They will have to get up to speed on that. And
that was the next question tied to government, truth and reconciliation. In the past year, how has progress been? I remember standing in the park, pouring rain. You had a declaration that Councillor Josh Seymour talked about in terms of truth and reconciliation and how the Claytley was going to sort of reclaim itself. And now where has that gone? Where has that gone?
I think with the new government, we'll have to send out our declaration again to every minister and probably hand deliver them and say, look, this is Claytley's territory. We have a say. There's nothing you can do about it because this is our territory. We have to protect it for long future generations, and we're going to.
Is that probably the next step in the whole, like how have you made progress? Do you feel comfortable with the progress made so far in truth and reconciliation, or do we still have a long way to go?
With the majority of the government, we do. We have, I think we've come a long ways. DFO, on the other hand, is another one that it's been a fight. And also, it's when we go meet with them, it's like we don't have that in our it's not, truth and reconciliation we haven't worked it in yet. I'm like, well, all the other ministers have, why haven't you? So it's a fight.
You had a very tragic event this year with the loss of 2 elders. Tell me about them.
It was actually 4 elders we lost. We lost one in August, Lee O'Donnell, unfortunately. And then right after that, we ended up losing Josie. And then 5 days after Josie, we lost Edith. And then a couple weeks after that, we lost Opie O'Donnell. So it was a very rough summer. Still trying to catch up. It was Josie and Edith were devastating to the community for our language, culture, and just for the ladies that they were. They were amazing ladies. Like
That's another big part of, tied in with that truth and reconciliation is the whole recreation, if you will, a rebirth of your language. And those 4 elders were probably instrumental in that. So now what?
Now what? Well, at Edith, and because we had the funerals, they had to be a few days apart. It was amazing listening to the younger generation. So we had 3 young ladies step up, and it was like lighting a fire to their shoes, right? So now they're in it, they got everything that they need. They have one has all the documents that Edith has, and she's learning it, and it happens to be her niece, Georgina, and she's sang Amazing Grace in Dacal, and so I have hope. I have high hopes this language thing is going to take off.
Yeah, and so it should. Now, you have an election coming up next year.
Yes.
This is maybe not your last term. Here's the big, tough question. Are you going to run again?
If I'm nominated by the community, I will run again, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, finally, what do you have? What's on the horizon, I mean, broadly speaking, for the Claytley in 2025? Building on what you've got, or you got some new plans in the hop that you can tell us about a little bit?
We got some new plans. We're working with, so we have a company called Clyde Ventures. We work with Notley, Sycas, and Stellatin, and Claytley today, and we're working on the hydro line, the second power line that's supposed to be coming through. So we're working with them because the first phase 1 is in our 4 territories. So the 4 of us are working with the government in BC Hydro to figure out what the plans are. And wind power is another big thing. There's so many companies coming in to the north, which is great because they want the resources that we have. And so
you lost a big project, Project Coyote.
We lost a huge one.
Yeah, that must have been a bit of a devastation to you.
That was a huge devastation, but we're still in communications with them, and the owner, Andrew Forrest, reached out and said, we're looking for more projects that we can do in northern BC, which is a positive. But I told him he has to find something that doesn't call for so much power. That's why we lost Coyote, was because their call for power was like 1,000 kilowatts, and it just wasn't doable.
All right. Chief, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and it sounds like you have a lot on your plate going into 2025, and including an election, so good luck to you.
Thank you.
Patty?